Hi all, once again a very good morning. So we are starting our first session of the day by Bengaluru chapter by Smriti Sudarshan. She's an e-learning training specialist at LinkedIn and she'll be talking on data-driven learning design, Agile Instructional Design. We have our facilitator who would be facilitating this session. I welcome you, Siddharth, on the microphone and webcam to start off the session.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and warm welcome to Agile Network India, and special welcome from Agile Network Bengaluru. So everyone loves IIM, right? Indian Institute of Management, and we all professional loves LinkedIn, and because of LinkedIn, I'm as part of this session today. So today we have a very young, talented woman. She is not only from IIM, she also worked for LinkedIn. So as you already know, that our presenter is Smriti Sudarshan. So let me give you a little bit facts about her. She is an expert in creating and design effective online courses with the help of data. Fluid art and table tennis are the products of her right brain. She loves masala dosa and filter coffee. So anyone visiting Bangalore should have a taste of filter coffee, and our presenter is a fan of that. Without any further delay, let me introduce our speaker for the day, Smriti Sudarshan. Smriti, over to you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, let me quickly give a brief introduction about myself. And the job that I do, so that I can connect it back to the session, and also, everyone would actually understand what exactly I'm talking about and why I'm talking about as well. So for today, what we're going to talk about in this session is data-driven learning design, and I'm mostly from the L&D aspect. L&D here means learning and development, and any kind of training needs that happen in your organization, or if you've seen any sort of e-learning courses that are there in your organization, or any sort of education services that you hear, or any email that you get from your HR. So all of that is something that is driven by us. That is the L&D department. So that is our core functionality. So we do have many other stuff that is there, but then the core functionality comes under the learning and development, wherein we are into just the upskilling part of our employees, or organization of our employees, so that the employees are in tandem with what the organization thinks by just upskilling themselves. So yeah, that's about it. So this is about where I come from and what I do. But yeah, but please do feel free to put in the chat in case you need any help from my end. But I'll quickly start off with the session, and yeah, let's keep this as interactive as possible, so that everyone knows what we are talking and how we are doing it as well. Okay, so yeah, so anyone heard about drop it in the chat. So if anyone has heard about the e-learning, or something known as a video based learning, or something known as when you go on LinkedIn and when you click on that LinkedIn learning, right? So that is nothing but your e-learning aspect of it. So if anyone likes that, has any comments on it, please to put it in the chat section, and I would be able to take that up later on. So, to give a brief introduction of the evolution of our learning landscape, so the evolution got started from 98, and it has been going on until 2020. So what happened in 1998 was that prior to that, there was an internet bubble burst that happened, and then due to that bubble burst, there was a huge transformation that happened in our online education. But it's just that it was so minimal, and also people didn't believe in the online education aspect of it. So what they've done is that in the 1998, what they did is that did was they just developed one system, or as you can say, they just developed one portal wherein all the e-learning courses were just added into it. And there were not much done to the courses or to the quality of those courses, or the designing bit of that courses was not done much in the 1998 part of it. So from 1998 to 2002, so once the internet started picking up, once the technology started moving across, and once everything was going in the right direction, in 2005 what happened was that there was this talent management that came into picture. So in talent management, what happens is that when a person is recruited into a company, what is it that is what talent has he got, or he or she has got, is what we are trying to gauge over here. But the talent doesn't just restrict to what you do on a software or what you do on a job, but it also means that you have something out of your job. The skill development bit is also known as the talent management bit. So in 2005 the talent management bit came into picture, and that is where the aspect of being more career focused, more career driven, and also where people were actually going back, or where there were a lot of gen x's that are there in the organization. And in 2005 gen z's came in, and that's the reason why the learning part of it became much more online, just because of the fact that there were a lot of new hires, and they were much more career focused, and they wanted to be self driven learners. So that's what happened in 2005. Then going to 2010, there was a boom in YouTube. So before, prior to, I think it was in 2007, YouTube came in, and youtube and education and video started happening in 2010. The continuous learning bit started happening in 2010. So the degree, or whatever the certification bit that was there in your talent management, that was there in 2005, that kind of started reducing a little bit, and it started moving towards the continuous learning bit. And also in 2005, you've got to remember that there was a lot of 5-day training sessions, or 10-day training sessions that used to go on, which started reducing in 2010, where there was a lot of on-job training that was going on. Or if, say, suppose a field engineer, or or anyone who would go to YouTube, they would start learning stuff on YouTube. Like, many people have learned how to build softwares by using YouTube. So that is what is known as continuous learning, that happened in 2010. And then going to the fact that there were various other things that happened in 2010, where learning became more on demand or on the job, rather than being it as a prerequisite to the job. So then in 2018, jumping like 8 years ahead, we have, in 2018 there was a burst in digital learning. And what happened in digital learning was that we mostly deal with apps that are there for education. We deal with all time learning that is there for education. Any kind of design thinking workshops that were conducted prior, like what, like 3 days workshop, 4-day workshop, came mostly on digital. So all of that became digital, and everything became app based, or mostly on the learner centric bit, is where the digital learning comes into picture. And in 2018, it was also known as learner centered design, or learner centric design. So here we were just not catering to what the stakeholders were telling, what the employees were telling, because they want this, but it was mostly they who would lead their own learning. So that was how there in the digital learning. And then as you come to 2020, we would be learning on the flow. So this is where COVID hit us, and then everything had to go online, from corporate working culture to the education bit. Everything went online, L&D went online. So all of this right now is the learning landscape of e-learning. But yes, to give a brief understanding, here we are still here between 2008 and 2020, wherein we are still evolving, and we are still doing much better. Yeah, so to set the context straight for this session, what I'm going to do is that I will just give a short narration of a case study that happened with us. So there was this okay, so before I start with the case study, just a few terminology checks here. One is the instructional design. So whenever I say instructional designing, it means that whenever you go and check on your online platform, or whenever you see your online LinkedIn learning, and then they say that click here, or when they tell you that this is the question, select all these that apply, those are the designing aspects that I'm talking about, on where you drive the session, or wherein you drive that learning in a much more better format. So that is the instructional designing aspect of it. Basically, as an instructional designer, I am dealing with their the learners designing needs, or what they want to do in the designing bit of it. So that's about the designing bit. But as L&D, if I tell you, it's learning and management, and that is a universal thing that I'm talking about. So what we do usually in L&D is that, as a project in project management, L&D project management, what we do is that we usually have a project of L&D that happens between 12 weeks, from 3 to 12 weeks, that is there. So when this 3 to 12 weeks session, or 3 to 12 weeks project management is happening, each one of them is divided into different phases. And as of now until today, we were just dealing this entire project in a waterfall manner, because there is a lot of dependency when it comes to L&D. So we have to depend on the learners, we need to depend on the deadlines, we need to depend on the stakeholders, and also we need to depend on what happens at the end, after the product is done, what happens in the end. Because if you're giving a training, it's just one shot training as of now. And if there's like 5 day training that's going on, so it's just like one shot, that 5 days done, the entire project is done. So that's just about it. But what I am going to talk about here is a framework wherein we are going to amalgamate data, or not amalgamate exactly, marry data and this agile instructional designing aspect, and then tell you how exactly it is better or efficient to make your instructional the e-learning project in a much more better fashion. So yes, so coming back to my case study here, I was a part of this project, wherein I was told that we deal with a bunch of field engineers, and I mean, engineering does have a lot of training requirements, because the softwares keep coming up, and new versions keep coming up, new feature keeps coming up. So all those feature updates and all those whatnot, the product updates that happen directly come to the training department first, because all their engineers need to be trained on it. So there was one session, there was one place where where I was dealing with the project, the stakeholders, or the manager, basically the manager was a stakeholder here. He just came to me and told me that, look, Smriti, this is the product. As of now, all the field engineers are failing at their session, and no one is doing anything on the job. And we are getting a lot of unresolved tickets that are there. So unresolved tickets here mean that whenever a field engineer picks up a ticket, for the troubleshooting ticket that they do, so they get on a customer call and they troubleshoot their issues. So when you get that ticket, the resolution rate, the performance of a team is calculated on the basis of the resolution bit. So how fast the resolution is done, or how fast the engineer replies and finishes or closes the case. So yes, so what I was told was that the resolution rate was really low, and though they were closing many cases, but the resolution was not happening correctly, so they need training for it. But yeah, so that's just about it. And then when I went, so yeah, I'll just leave it up till here. So they said that the training has to be done, and we need to kind of resolve them as soon as possible, or get the training in like 2 weeks. That has to be done, and complete their training. But as for my knowledge that was there, as for my knowledge, what what was there is that I mean, they didn't actually require training. All they needed was a bit of analysis, and also it was like a time crunch for us on our end, or from our the training and design perspective. There was a lot of major pitfall that was there. So a few of the pitfalls was that whenever you need to design a training, we needed at least 12 weeks of development, because we need to kind of pull in that content that has to be there. We need to get the environment that has to be there, so that we can train the engineers better. And also the tools that we use are very complicated, because we are doing online training, right? So we need to have certain amount of HTML and coding and all of that. So you just cannot code something within 2 weeks and give it to an engineer and say that take this training up. And obviously there is no templatization that's there in learning bit, because each one of them has different requirement, and each one of them has got different designing, because you're dealing with different teams in there. And yeah, there are no SME support for this, because it's just the manager who's telling us. There is no SME or a subject matter expert that is there. So what we did here was that we have a framework that was there in place, wherein we said that okay, we will do one thing. Let's first go with the preparation bit. So this is the framework that we built while we were doing a project management in L&D. And we said that okay, we will do preparation bit. As of now, let's not just jump into the training development. Now we will get into the preparation bit. So what we did in our preparation bit was that we collected background information about that about the engineers in there, about the stakeholder in there. And we also did a savvy start. Here means that you start off with a certain what do you call it, you start off with certain information like the content bit. So here the content was that the team was releasing a new feature, and they were also very poor in what the resolution rates were, or maybe they didn't know what exactly they were troubleshooting and why they were troubleshooting it. So yeah, so what we did was we gathered information. What we did in information gathering was that we did a detailed analysis of the team, and we said that okay, that's fine. You are not able to get the resolution rates faster, but what is it that is there as an impediment? What is it that is there as a trouble for you, as a pain point for you, that we can resolve by using the training? So that was the background bit that we collected. Then once when we went and we collected the information, we collected information from the manager. Manager said that okay, listen Smriti, this doesn't happen this way. There is a new feature that is coming up, we need to train them on that. And also since the resolution rate is low, we also need to reinforce the concepts that are there. So those were the two requirements that were there from the stakeholder. But when we spoke to the field engineers, who are going to be our end users or the end product users, when we spoke to them, what we understood there was that the resolution rates were low, because of the fact that the speed at which the manager was telling them to work at was not correct. So the SLA for that ticket resolution was 3 minutes. And when we have to do that 3 minutes bit, you cannot just close a case in 3 minutes, because there might be certain issues that the customer is facing, and we just cannot just close the case in 3 minutes. And that's the reason why the resolution rates were pretty low. So yeah, so those are the two aspects that we have to deal with. So the first aspect really did not require training need over there, because we just got involved in there, because we had to reinforce the concept, and we had to design and develop. But then the end user did not actually want that product. He or she did not even look into the training while doing the while taking his or her call. So this was something that we went back to the manager and told them that this is not the correct thing to do, and this is what the issue is. So the only thing that was left with our end was the feature update, which we had to do. So that, yes, obviously require training, because it is an update that we have to do, and the features need to be updated. So in the feature update as well, when we went in the preparation phase and when we asked them like what is it that you exactly want from the learners, that is the field engineers, they said that they do not need any exhaustive training wherein they have to sit on a project and wherein they have to remove their time and sit on a 2 day training. They wanted something that was on the go, on the job, and they also wanted something wherein when you pick up the phone from the customer has to just know, or the training has to felicitate their on their call. It should not be in such a way that they are actually sitting and sitting on a training and they don't know what to do and then they implement it during a call. So that was something that we realized during the preparation phase. So once the preparation was done, we went into the designing aspect, wherein we obviously had to do the project development and the additional designing part of it. So in the project planning part of it, since they needed just a training that can literally drive their call, we came up after brainstorming and after discussions, we came up with an idea of providing them with a job aid, which is nothing but a one pager of how the process works. Along with that, prior to that, we had like about a 3-minute training, which we also call as micro learning, which was put up and hosted upon our LMS. LMS here means learning management system, wherein if an engineer is trying to take the call and they're sitting on a call, they can go to the LMS and take that 3-minute training before they get on the call, or they can take that 3-minute training during the call and give the resolution steps. Along with that, you have a job aid that will help you, which has got different steps in there. So now, to pull this off, it was a little difficult because we had to prototype, design, review. So this is the place where it was most important for us over here, was that we had to inspect and adapt every time. In the designing bit, what happens is that we in L&D we do not collect a lot of data. Even though we collect a lot of data, we don't know what to do with that data. No one uses that data in there. So I'll get to the data bit a little bit more later on how we use the data in these phases. So yeah, so in the designing bit, what we did was we went ahead and we had to design their entire 3-minute e-learning. And trust me, it is really difficult to design a 3-minute e-learning over here. So what then later on what we did was that once we designed it over here, we sent it out for iterative development phase. So here the development phase, what I'm talking about is not your going and coding and then developing it. Here the development phase, what I'm talking about is the pilot testing that happens for a set of users. So we call that as alpha, beta, and gold. So alpha, for now you can consider it to be batch 0, batch 1, and batch 2. So these are the 3 different end users that we test on before we send out the product online. So yeah, so that's just about it. So here in the again iterative development phase, we have implement, evaluate, and develop. Here is where the entire part of consulting bit comes into picture for us, because since we are testing and since we are testing on different groups, since also we are testing on different groups, so the target audiences are a little different here, because we want to literally grab that entire scope. So because an organization is just not made up of one target audience. We have to deal with Gen X, Gen Z, and also the millennials that are in there, and also the new hires that are coming in. So all of that we need to deal with. So that's the reason why we have 3 batches in there. But yeah, so once this development or this process is done, then the entire product goes online. So that's where this helps us, and that's how the entire part was designed. So once we designed and once we put up our 3-minute e-learning over here, and everything was hosted on our website and the LMS. Yeah, so then we had to do our pilot testing, which was on alpha, beta, and gold part. So that was on batch 0, 1, and 2. So how we inspected and adapted here was that we have something known as 3 phases of data driven learning design. So all these 3 phases, so it's known as discovering insights, monitoring, and responding. So this is applicable in this 2 phases over here, wherein we collect a lot of data and lot of insights. So basically we are inspecting and adapting in these 2 phases itself rather than inspecting and adapting in the end. So yeah, so what we do is we discover insights over here, we monitor, and then we respond. If in case, so connecting back to my case study, what happened here was that since we had hosted 3-minute e-learning, we had already developed and we had hosted it on our LMS. And during our design phase over here, the iterative development phase, what happened here was that we understood that 3 minutes is not sufficient for them. They will need at least 5 minutes, because in 3 minutes there were a lot of faults in the flow of the training, and that's the reason why we had to kind of eliminate that bit, and we had to develop again the 5 minute or the 10-minute e-learning that happens in here. So yeah, so that's how we inspected and adapted. And how we got to know here was that, so when we had this entire DDLD that was there in place, so what we did here was that we just took that entire DDLD part, and then we put that in the designing aspect, or in the iterative development aspect, wherein we were testing and giving performance consulting. So in the performance consulting bit, what happened there was that we saw with the data that was there in line, that data that we collected, we saw that in the insights bit, when we had collected that data in the insights bit, we saw that there was a lot of drop in the there was a lot of drop in the course design, or there was a lot of drop after certain stage in the step, or in the e-learning course, because when we saw that in the monitoring phase, when we went and we saw that why most of them were dropping at this stage, we found that 3 minutes of the course was not enough, but we actually wanted they wanted to have a 5-minute course or a 10-minute course, because in 3 minutes it is very difficult to understand what exactly was going on in the course. So that's the reason why they were dropping out of it. And how we responded to it was by adding more lessons to it, and more amount of data, more amount of the feature update what was in there. So we gave them a lot of click and learn sort of a thing. That is the designing aspect of it. So that's where we went ahead, and we learned that this is how we got to respond. So these were the 3 phases, and all these 3 phases were connected back to the framework here, which happened in the iterative development. So that's the reason why this is a cyclic process. And then when we go back, that is also a sort of a cyclic process. That design and development phase takes back in, it goes hand in hand, and does not just happen with one short product development, wherein you just deliver the entire thing and everything goes out of the window. So what were the major success stories that happened over here for us was that, first thing is that, as you can see, we saved we saved almost about every e-learning here costs about huge amounts. So like say about $1 million, we actually kind of saved $1 million, because we had to develop 2 trainings. If you remember in the beginning, we had to have 2 trainings that were in there, and once those 2 trainings were developed properly, then later on they were supposed to give them like a 5-day training as well, which was not a feasible thing to do, because even the 5-day training, we would spend a lot on the trainer, and we don't know how much the engineer is going to learn in there. So basically we did a lot of we saved a lot of $1 million, and also there was a cost reduction in our training bit, because if you remember, I had told you how we inspected and adapted during the testing phase and the design phase. So they just wanted a job aid, which was nothing but a 1-pager that they wanted. So that 1-pager could be just done in a normal in a normal setting, it can be done on a PowerPoint, or you could just do it using a Photoshop. So anything like as such, you could do it as a 1-pager, as a job aid, and then we come back and say that if you need anything else, you can go right back in to our LMS and check our e-learning in there. So again, the e-learning in there was hosted online, because the sharing bit that happens and the review bit that happens in the end with the stakeholders was pretty much easier, when compared to the entire end product that was there. So when we shared that review link with them, there was a lot of quality improvement that happened from our end, because the e-learning products that are there in market, as you've seen, the ethics compliance training, I don't know how many of you could take that up in your companies. The ethics and the compliance bit, if you've seen, you just go on clicking next, 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 and until you get to the quiz section of it, right? So that just means that you're not as engaged as you have to be with your learning when you get that product. So that for us is a huge disappointment, because we when you create such a big training, which takes about like 12 to 15 weeks, and then you put it online. So that is where our engagement and our designing and the agile part of it comes into picture. Do you actually need the ethics and compliance course? But that is just a mandatory training that needs to be done. And since it's just a mandatory training, why do we have to spend so much on it? We just need to revise on it, right? So that is the kind of thing that we are talking about, and that's the reason why we had a lot of quality improvements in terms of the engagement and also in terms of our end product. Apart from that, we also could achieve a lifelong learning thing, wherein there was a lot of continuous learning which happens, wherein your field engineers were engaging with the platform much more faster and much more better, rather than them sitting on a classroom training, or sitting on like 2-hour e-learning just with videos, and learning that entire thing in one shot. So that's just about it. So these are like a few success stories, but there are many more success stories in there. But yes, this is one of it for the case study that I was talking about. Apart from this, we also could achieve a lot of people who would interact on the platform. It became like the Facebook sort of a thing, wherein you could comment, share, like, all of that. So that's the reason how the learning kind of became much more engaging for them, because they were not just learning on the go, but they were also interacting on the platform, and they were posting in questions in the discussion thread, and also they were posting in questions by saying that what is it if you do like this, and what is it if you do like that. So someone else who knew would be able to respond back on that platform as well. So that's the kind of community that we built in there, rather than mostly the peer-to-peer learning, rather than just spending a lot on a training. So that's just about it. And this is the entire framework which I was just talking about. So wherein with the evolution of e-learning coming into picture, and then we trying to achieve a continuous learning, and instead of us having a waterfall model for the development, with even though it is really difficult sometimes to achieve it, we do have a lot of agile processes that is coming and touching the L&D aspect of it. Because we do in the L&D want to be much more agile, and not just give our stakeholders, or what our stakeholders think what the learners want, but we want to drive something known as a learner-centric design, wherein the users want what they want, not what the stakeholder wants. So that's just about it with DDLD. I am opening floor to questions now. So yeah, for this you can feel free to contact me. That's my email address. LinkedIn is something we could also get in touch with me. I am available on LinkedIn, and yes, we can get to the Q&A bit now. So
yeah, thank you, Smriti. That was a great session, and thank you for taking us through the evolution of e-learning from 2002 onwards, 1998 onwards till now. And it is very nice to see like how the learning team is also using the iterative model, the agile model, as part of this process. So thank you so much again. And there is a question which has come from Rajshekhar, Smriti. I just added that on the chat. If you can take that up.
yeah, examples of kind of data and insights that is gathered. Yes, I would really show you that. The insights, but I can just give you a brief of it, of how exactly it worked. So there were a lot of things that we proved wrong. Also, you can feel free to contradict me on this. The kind of data and the insight that we got was that people are lifelong learners, right? it's just that it's just a matter of tapping into it, and how exactly the organization helps them do that. But what we understood, the kind of data that we got was that when we went back to the stakeholders, we said that, again, feel free to contradict, it's nothing personal, this is what we have found out. I mean, feel free to discuss this with me offline, but we found that a lot of effort that goes into training does not give you the desired results, or a lot of effort that goes into learning does not give you desired results until and unless you are with it, or until and unless you are engaged with it. So I think this was the best data that we could get. So even for the universities with which we had collected, like we had worked even with MIT, and in MIT as well, when we collected data in there, we found that most of the students had a lot of efforts put in, but the results were not as much desired as possible. So I would definitely love to take you through the data of how exactly the graph is shown, and how exactly the effort was less, effort was more, but then the results were not as much, as much as possible. They didn't get the desired performance outcome. So yes, so this is going to take a bit of time. So, and also it's on the confidentiality aspect, I cannot share the data like that. So yeah, this is just a brief of it.
Okay, there is a question on how long did it take for this initiative? So, what is the time period?
To set up this, it took me about an year or so. I think, yeah, but we were working, like we were kind of burnt out at the end. But yes, it took us about like 1.5 year just to collect all the data and analyze it and give us the solution, give them the solutions.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, hi Smriti, this said
Okay, there
Vinay.
is a
Yeah,
yeah. Please go ahead.
just said that initiatives only would take around 1 year. So in Agile, as per my understanding, it is kind of iterative and progressive model.
Right.
And if I am going little deep in basically Scrum and little detail, so hardly a sprint should go max by 4 weeks.
Right.
And this initiative itself take a year. Then how you will justify this agile methodology and this concept?
Oh, the initiative, I thought you were talking about the framework bit. I didn't know that you were talking about the Scrum bit. So for us, the Scrum bit, we do it like about 15 days. As of now, we have a 15-day sprint that is in there, in place, because for us, the development is not just going ahead with, as I told you, in L&D, Agile is just being implemented. All of this is just, as of now, just started. It's not like in full-fledged that is there in your software development, wherein you have like complete for 4 week sprint or a 5 week sprint like that. But as of now, we are testing it out with a 15-day sprint, wherein on every 15-day we do a rapid prototyping for that 15-day part. Or if that prototyping is not there, we would kind of go ahead and do the other aspects of it, like the content development bit or the analysis bit that happens within a 15-day sprint in a month. That's how we are kind of getting our scrums in place as of now.
You guys divided your analysis also under under the sprint, right? 15 days analysis sprint, something like that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Smriti, hi, this is
Thank
Reshma. I
you.
have a question.
Hi, Rish.
Hi. So, I'm sorry if I didn't sort of get that part completely, but are you saying that you had this kind of performance support / job aid kind of a thing that could well be a one-pager that would solve their problem? But are you also saying that you also have an e-learning course for, for greater reference or for more in-depth training?
Yes, that's correct. But
Okay, and are you able to target all three audience groups that you mentioned with this, like one job aid and one e-course, or how did you manage that, the audience mapping?
Yeah, so the audience mapping bit, so we foremost we took that field. So what we do in our L&D is that we have something known as learner personas. So when I say someone is online, we have different personas that are there online. So for that team, where we were consulting with. In that team, we had like just a few online learners who were in there, and all of them were new hires. They were not, who were there as a Gen X or a Gen, millennial sort of. All of them were new hires as of now. So those new hires needed a bit of handholding with the e-learning aspect of it. Okay, but if I have to tell you about the Gen X who have the experience bit, the experience bit were much more focused on the job aid. So what we did was a blended approach. We took a blended approach in there, wherein we provided them with the e-learning. If the Gen X wanted, or they wanted to take up the e-learning, this was a better way to do it. To impart the knowledge rather than having like a 2-day session for them, which is for 8 hours straight, wherein there is no retention bit. But also we also took consideration into the fact that there were new hires, and we implemented the e-learning bit and the job aid bit, which could help them on the go, sort of. And also with new hires, they do have certain amount of mentoring with them. So even the people who had to tap into the social learning bit, or what I'm talking is the peer-to-peer learning, that was also tapped into, rather than us just giving one job aid that was just meant for everyone. So that was just about it, but we took a blended approach in there.
Okay. And this collaborative learning that you're saying that it's sort of become a community now, with people contributing and more experienced learners putting in their experiences, people coming together and learning. Where is this hosted? Is this on the LMS?
On the LMS bit, yes. Yeah.
Hi, Shruti. Good morning. I have one question related to the SAFE.
Yeah.
I have already pinged it on the chat box. So just I need some clarifications. So can you let me know the SAFE PI planning checklist? According to that, team member will going to figure out the things.
Uh,
Enterprise level.
that again is a little going in depth. We do not have that much level of planning. We have a lot of analysis in place. How the analysis takes place is how we develop our end product. So a checklist sort of a thing is not there for us, because we keep on trying to improve, as such, and there is no checklist in place. So there can never be a checklist in place for L&D department. Until and unless you're doing the QA bit, the quality bit of it, wherein you're correcting the grammar of the content, or you're correcting the UI UX of the content, or you're telling me something in terms of the feature is not correct for this, or in the ethics and compliance bit the button is not correct. So all those can have the checklist, the QA bit, but definitely for the entire process we never have a checklist, because that is what we want to cater to. We do not want to have a structure in place, but we want to give it to a learner in such a way that he or she is able to take the journey for learning. And that's the reason why we have not had any checklist in place.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done from my end.
Thank you everyone. We are on the top of the hour. Thank you, Smriti, so much again for this session.